I got a little intro. I kicked it up a notch. So let me read through my little intro for drone logistics, the reality versus the hype. And it says from buzzing through last mile deliveries to scanning warehouses, this tech isn't sci-fi anymore. It's real, it's scaling, and it's getting funded like crazy. So where drones are making the most impact right now is around last mile delivery, warehouse inventory, infrastructure monitoring, and then some niche use cases in agriculture. We have talked, I don't know if you remember a few episodes back where there were drones that were helping tugboats tie different lines to the ships that are coming in. So that was something that I thought was interesting. So that's happening in the a niche use case in the maritime sector. So for last mile delivery, a couple little highlights. Zipline, you probably have you seen them at all on your Twitter/X feed?
Well, I've been following them for years because I know that they started off in, I believe, Africa because of the regulations, right?
Well, they started off in Ghana and they were doing blood deliveries. And
Yeah.
so that was, it's interesting to see like kind of how some of these companies get started. They start off with like disaster logistics or like medical deliveries, these really like time sensitive shipments, but also high value shipments. And I think that's probably the business model for some of these companies is that they start off in the high impact areas, kind of tweak some things. And then from there, it becomes more investable to these other VCs. So Zipline is one of them. What have you seen from them?
So yeah, like you said, they did start on more of the medicine, the pharmaceutical maybe side. I think a lot of drone companies jumped in right around the pandemic with FAA, like I guess regulation roundabouts, in order to get enough flying in, so they could get regulation as well. The one thing I believe the last time I had really looked into Zipline, they're doing a lot of work, if I remember correctly, in Texas with Walmart. I believe Jack Dalio, one of my favorite guys over at Flying Magazine, who also writes, of course, for Freightwaves as well. He always gets to go on those fun tours and see them in action, and I always get really jealous of him as well. But I do know I think Walmart has invested, or at least has started using Zipline as well, and they have their drone has like definitely changed too, if I remember correctly, since when it first came out. Like it was more of like this almost like a mini plane looking structure, where now I feel like it's more of like a bus looking situation and it has like it's a little bit more square and boxy. So that's been kind of cool to
More
like
like a copter where they can take
yes.
off vertically. And then
Yes.
I've noticed too with zip lines, they use the same kind of methodology that like aircraft carriers will use. Whenever a plane is coming to land on an aircraft carrier, you have this it's called the adjusting cable, I believe. And so it's literally a cable that is obviously very strong, and that it catches the plane as it's landing on the carrier. And so they have something similar set up in Texas, or maybe it's Arkansas, I believe, with Zipline that they
Yeah.
have, but it's in the air. So they have these two kind of sticks that are pointed in the air with a line, with a string that's connecting the two sticks, and it catches the drone as it's landing. So Zipline definitely is one of them. They have 600 plus daily medical flights in Ghana, serving 12 million people. I believe they're also doing deliveries in Rwanda. So that's, to your point, that's really where they kick things off. Alphabet/Google, which or is the parent company to Google, their Alphabet's Wing. It's 300,000 global deliveries they've done so far. They're doing 1,000 deliveries a day in Australia. Walmart, you said that they invested in Zipline, but I believe they also have their own drones as well. Um, it's been kind of I think for Walmart, it's kind of been a trial period because I know that they were trying to do deliveries via drone in Florida, but then they just stopped doing it. And there's lots of factors at play there. So maybe we should get into a little bit of I guess the challenges around it. But first, Shenzhen is another one that is the food delivery in Shenzhen is in China is already normalized there. I don't know if you've seen any of
No.
those videos. It's kind of incredible. While I'm talking about it, they have almost these like kiosks, like vending machines all over Shenzhen. Shenzhen is like the Silicon Valley of China. And so they have all of the driverless taxis in there by BYD, the driverless cars,
Yeah.
but drone delivery for food in particular. Like if you are watching some of these tourists that go over there, it's like a vending machine that has a landing pad on the top of it. So you can order food from an app. Like the demo I saw, they were ordering from like a KFC. So they placed their order, and the next like closest little vending machine kiosk thing, you can either order at the kiosk or use your phone in order to order and pay. The drone gets your food gets delivered in like less than 30 minutes. They drop it off, and it's almost like their own container system that they developed. So, the container system that got developed for the cargo ships really streamlined a lot of deliveries. And that's what this reminded me of, is this drone that was dropping off a box that was meant for food. And it's specially created, has little handles on the top of it that the drone latches onto. The drone lands onto the vending machine in a specific spot. The food drops down into the vending machine. You put in a keypad code, and you take the box out, and then you take your food out of the box. It's all sealed and
So
properly.
cool.
So even if it's a drink, you don't have to worry about it spilling because there's like a special seal on it. You take the box that it arrived in, you pull like one side of the box, and it folds up instantly, and you just drop that box right back into the vending machine. Nearby, they have a landing and a takeoff area. So there's a couple like humans in the mix where the landing and the drones are kind of taking off from. And they have batteries that are there as well. So they can kind of switch out the batteries, because the biggest hurdle or the biggest challenges, which we could probably talk about right now, is weather related and then battery related. So these two gentlemen were like monitoring all of the drones, monitoring their power level, and then also switching out the batteries for the drones that were looking a little weak in the charging department. And so it's just this whole like system that they have set up. And the drone deliveries, I mean, you can order from all different kinds of restaurants all within the app, and it all gets delivered like right next to you, versus like a zip
Cool.
line where it's more custom, like it's coming right to your house. And so those were I think some of the more interesting things that I've seen like out in the wild when it comes to deliveries. Have you seen anything sort of interesting like that?
That is really cool. I haven't have I to say have I seen any of these physically? No, I'd say here in Michigan, we actually do. It was just in Ann Arbor yesterday, and they have a lot more of the on the road robots
Hmm.
because the town physically has like set up its infrastructure. It's kind of annoying as like a driver, because you'll see like what looks like a bike lane and then parking for on the street and then a regular lane to drive in, and
Hmm.
so they've like created really great lanes for like robot those type of deliveries. um but I do think it's fascinating. I know that Ohio, I think Kroger's working with a company, Dexa Drone Express,
Hmm.
which is a female founded drone company. So go check them out as well. I think they're a Venture 53 portfolio company.
What are they called? Dexa drone?
Dexa, yep, Dexa. And their big customer is Kroger, if I remember correctly. So the same thing, you can like, because I remember they had sent me like a, if you've ever been to Kroger, or really any grocery store, right? Sometimes you get those like coupons after your receipt, right? And there's a receipt from Kroger that you get now that's like a free Dexa delivery. So like you can, just get a free drone delivery if you want. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So I've seen theirs, and theirs is like more of, I believe, what they're calling like as a service.
Hmm.
So like their thing is they'll create the drones. It's almost like it could almost like kind of be like a Waymo experience. So like they build like
Oh,
the
so
hardware.
the software, or are they building the
Yes,
hardware?
I believe they have the hardware too. And then let's say I say, oh, for a living, I want to, maybe more of it's an Amazon experience, right? For a living, maybe I want to own a fleet of these drones and I'll make deliveries. Then you can like purchase the fleet through them, just like you would Amazon, right? Like you can purchase like a fleet of trucks, and then your business is dispatching those trucks and making sure they operate. So they kind of set up the same thing there. But yeah, they're doing the same thing with Kroger, and I just think it's fascinating. What is also interesting though is like for like the zip line thing, like how they set up those experiences. Like you said, in China, right? They have kind of that booth situation there. What I've noticed, like from the Walmarts in particular, is like they almost set up like a whole like landing pad next to the store that's like gated off, and like instead the person will bring the groceries or those items into this like gated off like zone, and then they take off. So it's also fascinating to kind of think like for instance, I think Walmart came out that they're starting to do dark stores, right? These locations that no one physically goes into, you just go there to pick up your
Oh, wow.
groceries.
So it's like a
Uh,
warehouse.
it's like a warehouse, and I wonder if like that's what they're going to do with these like dark stores too,
Mm.
is like maybe use the roof or like somewhere on that property like to do also the drone deliveries, because I think right when you kind of talk about like regulation, I'm always interested in like how do you set these up around, you know, busy areas like with a lot of trees, a lot of cable, like what is that experience like? And so when I did see that they're starting to go into dark stores, I'm like, is that part of this drone experience
Hmm.
too? So I think it's cool though, it's starting to work, people are using it. I haven't been in an area yet where you can accept one.
Yeah, same. I've been trying, even when I've gone to Austin twice this year,
Oh,
and
that's right.
I tried so hard to get a Waymo to pick me up, but I think they're just limiting it to people who have like Austin addresses or Austin home
Wow.
addresses. So I was very mad that I wasn't able to get into a way, because I really want to experience this kind of technology, and it's just not available in my area yet. And back to Walmart's like drone kind of experiments, like there's a lot of experimenting going on, because there's the challenges that exist are the battery power, and then also from a weather perspective, if it's raining, if
Yeah.
it's dark, if it's foggy, that can all mess with like the drone's sensors and delivery mechanisms. There's also different ways that deliveries can be made. Like Zipline actually uses like a tether system to drop your package. I
Yeah.
think Walmart and Amazon, when they were first starting to test these, they were literally just dropping the package in someone's backyard. So, I mean, God forbid, if have something fragile in there, it's
Yeah.
probably not going to work in that system. But there's a lot of opportunity here, because Amazon, I think in their own study when they were piloting this program, said that 85% of their deliveries are 5 pounds or less. So that is a major drone unlock, because for
Yeah.
one of the challenges that exists right now for a lot of drone deliveries is that they can't carry a lot of weight. That is getting improved. So I think there's some drones now that can hold up to 50 pounds. So groceries might not be that likely,
Yeah.
especially depending on what you're ordering. It's probably going to be a certain weight limit, if that that I guess that software allows you to, kind of like
Yeah.
when you're in Amazon and you can kind of pick, oh, can I get the same day delivery, or can I match it to my delivery of the week day. So I would imagine that that kind of capability would be coming sooner or later. But as I'm talking right now, it's pouring raining in Florida. So um
Well, and it's funny too to like kind of think through that problem, because going back into like the technology side of it, right? Like in order to solve that, you theoretically have to go in and every SKU that you are moving, decide whether or not that item, right, could be technically shipped, right, whether it's based off weight, how fragile it is, etc., and then building your system so that um I'm sure you've seen this, right? If you like, this happened to me at Dick's the other day, right? I was trying to purchase a number of things in store, and at the end of it, it was like, we can't do this in store because this one item is, it has to be just
mm,
shipped directly, right? And like, so creating the rules in your system to like be able to know, so it is interesting to think like, okay, you could have the drone ready, you could pass all the weather situations, but there's still, I think, just connectivity issues of what exactly can go on there. And I think that's why they've focused so much on kind of, we're just going to stick to medicines, right? Like dropping Tylenol off on your porch, right? Something that we all know can happen, can fall from the sky and probably be fine. Compared to sending, like, of course, like I've seen, I think Starbucks though was like delivering in drones, weren't they? Like, or something. There was like a coffee company, and I was like, see, that's something I don't want delivered by a drone, and
Well,
never.
it's interesting you say that because in the Chinese way, I mean, obviously they're far ahead because DJI is their big drone
Yes,
manufacturer. They manufacture, I want to say over, it's not close to 80%, but I know it's over 70% of all the world's drones. So they are like the king as far as like manufacturing them. But even with, a lot of their deliveries that they're doing with those sort of like kiosk vending machine type places, the drinks that they were getting were sealed. So they had like almost like a yogurt and like that kind of seal on top of the yogurt on top of your drink so it wouldn't spill it all. And so I imagine that there's going to have to be some coordination for like a Starbucks or for some of these other companies, maybe not hot drinks, but cold drinks for sure.
yeah,
Because I think the packaging was also insulated from like the sun or heat exposure or anything like that, kind of messing up your food. But when you think about how many like DoorDash deliveries, Amazon's 85% of their deliveries are 5 pounds or less. Like, how much are we wasting with just general traffic on the road, emissions from these last mile trucks? Like, there's a lot of waste going on that
totally.
this market could absolutely capitalize on. And I think it's going to be let's see, I think I had it in my notes, 61 billion. A drone logistics market could hit 61 billion by 2029. And it says drone delivery cuts CO2 emissions by over 90% versus vans, like delivery vans. So there's definitely some opportunity. But to your earlier point about like regulatory issues, in order to even pilot a drone, you have to have what's called like the FAA 107 rules, which is the US
Mhm.
commercial drone use is regulated by weight, altitude, and line of sight limits. So the drone can't leave your eyesight under that rule. Now they're
Oh,
currently trying to rework that rule. I think it's loosely being called like Rule 108. So then, because that's where the fleet management software is going to come into play, which I think is super interesting if you have an entire fleet of drones, because much like trucks, like you have to know where they're at, you have to know their maintenance schedule, you have to know their power life, and where are they making deliveries, who are they making deliveries to, and so you have to have all of that information as well for your drones, just like you do for your trucks.
yeah, and that's why when I met the Dexa company, like that was more of their focus was what you're talking about, like almost setting up people, because I agree with you. I think that market for drone experience is big. Just like again, we saw with Amazon and kind of these like small delivery vans, etc. But how do like we deploy that at scale? How do we, you know, find these people who can test and qualify, and then run these drone, I guess, drone
You have to
fleets,
get a
right?
license.
Yeah,
Because they also
yeah,
have, well, I was listening to a podcast earlier today that they have these, like, it's like a digital license plate for any drone that is flying in the country. So you can avoid collisions. You have to fly at certain, like, there's going to very soon be like flight paths and flight lanes for drones. And there's also the factor around like trying to be less of a nuisance, because
yeah.
the public, especially when you're talking about in like the public atmosphere, they don't want to hear drones flying around. They're still incredibly noisy. They are, the manufacturers are working on, reducing that noise level. But then there's also like the privacy level too of, people see a drone and they automatically think like their privacy is being invaded. And so you have to sort of monitor that perception as well. But there is one place where you don't have to worry about any of this, and that's inside a warehouse. And that's probably like the
Yes.
best use case for drones right now, because there are self-flying drones are reducing manual labor by scanning shelves and barcodes inside these massive warehouses. IKEA uses 250 autonomous drones across 73 warehouses and in 9 countries, even
That's
in the dark. So they're doing like inventory counts in the dark. I had
so smart.
Gather AI on the
Yeah.
show about a year ago, and they talk
Awesome.
about how they have like charging pads inside of their office,
Yep.
and then the drones will take off from the charging pad, go do their inventory counts, and then return back to the charging pad. And it's
Yeah.
all internal. They don't have to worry about different licenses. They don't have to worry about, weather patterns and things like that. It's all kind of, just built in.
Well, and
So
think
there's
about, like, how you can maximize space in a warehouse knowing that you can I mean, clearly there's probably some fire hazards in this, but you can build shelves as high as you physically can, right? Because you don't
Mhm.
have to worry too much. Well, my drones are going to be counting up there. It's not humans sending to the top of these things, right? Um and again, you can count at any time of the day. You don't have to worry about having a third shift to do any of that. I think that's what's really cool about drones inside is it just like makes so much sense. It's such a safe. It feels a little bit like the opposite of a problem with a drone outside, where it's like, oh, this is actually helping with a lot of safety initiatives inside, human safety initiatives, right? And at the same time, like just being able to pack and pick and find items quickly, I think is huge. I mean, I can't think of how often things just get lost in a warehouse, and to be able to say, listen, send the drone out, he'll sweep this place in minutes and we'll know exactly where it is, compared to like trying to manually find something like that.
Oh my God.
I'm sure there's warehouses all over the country who are losing product or have some type of significant loss just because things get lost in their warehouse, and just to have this like being that can easily maneuver through, I think is really cool. And that team's awesome. I think the last time I
I
talked to them, they just got that warehouse.
I was wondering too, because I used to work at Costco, and we used to have inventory counts twice a year, where
Totally.
all hands on deck. It was not if you worked at that company, you had to be there on inventory night. You were assigned a certain area, and you had to count everything by hand. And so it was just all hands on deck kind of thing, and you have to do it twice a year. So I'm sure that's the case for, or was the case for a lot of other companies that aren't utilizing, technology like this. So I'm curious if the Costco workers out there, if anybody's listening, chime in and let us know how they're doing inventory counts, because I would love to know because I mean Costco is a pretty much a warehouse,
Yeah.
and so when you're inside there, I wonder if maybe there's something that they could do with like their own like inventory counts via drone, that are happening at night, so it doesn't have to be like the all hands meeting at the end of the day. So I did want to highlight, some of these like GPS tracking, autonomous systems. So there are a couple of them like DJI. We talked about them. They have a flight hub as far as like a fleet management software offering. There's another company called Air Data. There's another company called Aloft. There's other like battery and like health monitoring. So think like maintenance for your drone. It's called Flight Base, Drone Deploy, or Air Data UAV. So there's a few companies there that are almost like your fleet management software, which I think is just super cool that we're watching like some of this stuff like unfold, and what are they learning from logistics experiments across the world, and then how it's kind of different, or I guess the application is different, for all different sectors of the world. But if kind of when I was watching the video of like the Chinese drone delivery, because they're so far ahead when it comes to drone manufacturing and just drone deployment, it was interesting to see like what is working in their society. And I kind of think that with those kiosks, I don't think we're too far off from, apartment buildings or even your own home, like having a little helipad
Yeah.
for drone deliveries. And that is just a marked space for the drones to make the delivery, and they drop those packages off, and that's your little landing pad, not just for buildings and not just for kiosks, but for your house as well.
Yeah, poor gig workers, right? Just when they thought. No, I think it would be cool. I just and it's I think my well, and this is more of a societal issue. My one fear with it is that, and this again is more societal, is I think something like this could be really helpful for areas who have food deserts, right?
Mhm.
But I also think at the same time, those areas also probably have issues with drone flying regulation because they're so compact.
Mm.
Usually inner cities, right, are a little bit more difficult, I think, to withstand that. So that's my only fear is like, is this going to be something that more of like a suburb thing where you have that space to kind of take off and maneuver around compared to like an inner city who could probably really use that technology,
Yeah.
right? To
Especially like fresh produce or something like
yeah,
that, like being able to get that delivered.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
think we're too far off, hopefully. I mean,
yeah.
it
Or even
depends on the budget.
it could be a situation too where it's like you're saying, almost maybe like a block or two share one and that can help. But it will be fascinating to see how it starts to explode more. And I think once we have more states, I think accepting of a lot of this technology, we'll see more of it too. I think this also the sad side of this though is my poor state, who loves to see snow and rain throughout the year, is probably going to have a little bit more difficulty deploying that because of weather purposes
Mm.
compared to states like yourself that stay a little bit more dry.
Well,
Well,
it's
I don't know.
literally
Not today.
thundering
Yeah,
outside right now. We're at the time of the year in Florida where it rains every day. So what are they
yeah,
gonna do about a state like this where it's raining from like 1 to 4 PM or has a high chance of rain between those time frames? I guess
yeah,
maybe more late night deliveries or more early morning deliveries. That's probably a better, I guess, method to take, but uh, it is interesting also to see how they're approaching the style of drone that they're manufacturing. Because I just saw, and I'm blanking on the name right now, but I just saw this drone maker the other day that is starting to mimic birds. And so instead of
um,
having like a vertical takeoff, they kind of, with birds, they kind of jump to take off. So
yes,
adding almost like little bird type legs to the drone so it'll jump and then it starts taking off, like give it a little extra oomph so it doesn't need as much battery in order to take off. Because once it takes off, it's much. I how do I say this? It's not as impactful on the battery load
yeah,
of the machinery if it's already in the air. But it's the initial takeoff that is challenging of a situation. And it even like this little drone had wings as well, and so it was like flapping, like if it wanted to like hop over or something, then it was like a little bird leg jump, and then but the wings would flap too as it was jumping. So I don't know how practical that is for like delivery, and especially carrying payloads like that, but it's something interesting to watch.
totally. And for all the people out there that think birds aren't real, Blythe just helped you support that theory. So
Are there really people who think no, I don't want to, oh god. I'm about tired of conspiracy theories and news, and every conspiracy theory I feel like I talk about, it comes true anyway. So is it even a conspiracy theory
I
anymore?
will say though, the whole drones around New Jersey thing, it is funny that you talk about the type of takeoff because the whole like weirdness about some of those like lights and stuff was going back to the science of kind of propulsion, and if we have a capability of being able to kind of take off in a different type of propulsion form, and that's kind of like what you're talking about, right, is like but that kind of technology, right, can be it's interesting to like theorize if we do have it as a country, right, through the lens of that conspiracy theory, because that would be very helpful for this exact problem solving scenario. So um, hope maybe the conspiracy people are right, and we can get that type of propulsion off of these drones and make them a little bit easier to get off the ground and going.
I would love to see some of these experiments take place in like the pouring down rain of what we're experiencing now. Like, let's see
Exactly.
some real magic. Or just dive into the ocean or
I mean,
something. Like, give us some goods.
you do actually make a good point though, because in a day like when it's rainy out, I don't want to go to the store. That's the day I'd most likely want to use a drone. Like when it's beautiful out, I want to leave my house and like go to so really do have to figure out this weather situation.
Can you hear the thunder
Yeah,
out?
honestly, I thought that was your stomach.
No, it
I'm
is
like, I know
pouring
she ate
today.
lunch. I was like, I did start listening to it. And I was like, and I know the listeners can hear it because I can hear it. And she is
Well,
not
hopefully, yeah,
hungry.
it is. I'm not hungry. I ate right before we started recording, so
Yeah,
we're
I
good
saw her
there.
feed herself. So.